Russian President Vladimir Putin has attacked Ukraine without reason, or so it seems. Learn how Russia's invasion of Ukraine connects to America's actions in Yugoslavia in the 1990s. Next, on The Key of David with Gerald Flurry.
Greetings, everyone. Russia attacked Ukraine and really had no reason to do so. But did you know that Putin says that America attacked Yugoslavia in 1991 and they had no reason to do so? And actually, he is right on that issue, and I'll show you that today. But he has not forgotten what we did in 1991 and on into the 1990s. So he was enraged by it when it happened, and that rage still reigns today in his mind. I wrote a booklet on in the 1990s that was published 7 different times. It was titled Germany's Conquest of the Balkans. And we'll send that to you at the end of the program, but I'll tell you, I have it all documented there in a way that I've never read it anyplace else, and it's simply based on facts. And you can prove that to yourself. Overall, though, Russia, if you look in the past, they've had a pretty good relationship with Yugoslavia, and they even were allies in World War II against Germany. But remember this also, in World War I and World War II, the Yugoslavs or Serbs were allied with America in World War I and in World War II. So why would we want to go with our missiles and our airplanes and destroy Yugoslavia? It sounds treacherous, and I'm telling you it is. If we're really honest, and you can see to a great extent why Vladimir Putin is doing what he's doing in Ukraine according to his words, if you can take those words at what appears to be their meaning. But I wrote a long article at that time also, and it was titled, Putin Remembers Yugoslavia. And we'll also send you a copy of that article at the end of this program, and it is very revealing about what happened in the 1990s. Now let me just give you a quote from Vladimir Putin to make you see how this impacted him. He was shocked in what happened, and he made this explosive statement. I want to quote it to you. As he sent his troops into Ukraine February 24th, Putin justified his attack, arguing that Russia had to be strong after the Soviet Union fell and Russia was weak. Now, Russia was weak, and here was his quote. When we were in that condition, quote, a bloody military operation was waged against Belgrade, Yugoslavia, without the UN Security Council sanction. In other words, America and Germany didn't even go take it to the UN. They just said, we're going to do it, whether Russia likes it or not, or anybody else. He goes on to say, but with combat aircraft and missiles, exactly what Russia is using in Ukraine today, and used in the heart of Europe, Putin said in an address to his nation. The bombing of peaceful cities, he says, and vital infrastructure went on for several weeks. I have to recall these facts because some Western colleagues prefer to forget them. And when he mentioned the event, they prefer to avoid speaking about international law and instead emphasizing the circumstances which they interpret as they think necessary. Now, this is what Putin is saying to his people as all of this war with Ukraine goes on. And you don't hear anybody in America talking about that, but they should, because it is in the mind of Vladimir Putin in a very fervent way. Just to illustrate it even more, when he went into near Kiev, he attacked the television tower, first of all, And he did that mainly because America had attacked the television tower in Belgrade and in Yugoslavia. He wanted them to understand his thinking and why he was doing that. Now, this is easy to prove. It isn't something that we should be confused about. But Vladimir Putin says Germany and America don't want to discuss their war with Yugoslavia. They went around the UN, they just did it on their own, and Russia didn't like that at all, and they were weak at that time, and now they're much stronger. And so they're attacking Ukraine and doing exactly what we did in Yugoslavia. And Germany was really, we did it at the behest of Germany, but it was by our military might that Yugoslavia was destroyed. How do you explain that? It was a foreign policy debacle for the United States of America, and we certainly warned them at that time in the 90s. And we have no answer for that, really. Why would America do that? Well, notice this. When Russian officials appeared before the UN Security Council, they used the same justification. That is, just before they went into Ukraine. We're just doing in Ukraine what NATO with America's power did in Yugoslavia. Now that's what he told the United Nations. He talks about it all the time because he's enraged by what happened then. And we don't like to talk about that, but we ought to. We really ought to think about this. Notice what was written by this man. The hypocrisy of the West has become an obsession of his, that is Putin's, and it is reflected in everything the Russian government does. Political scientist Ivan Krastev told Spiegel last week. He patterns his attack on Ukraine after America's attack on Yugoslavia because he wants to teach us a lesson, because he wants to tell us, I have learned from you. Well, what do you know about that? I mean to tell you, America's power just dismantled Yugoslavia in 1991 and on into the 90s, really. It was one of America's biggest foreign policy disasters ever. And we don't like to talk about it, but we should, because Vladimir Putin certainly is. But we don't quote him very much. How much have you heard about what America did in 1991 to Yugoslavia? And Vladimir Putin is very much concerned about it, so much so that he's still in a rage about it. We ought to consider that very carefully because it was a mistake that's going to be costly for us and it's going to haunt us for a long, long time. We need to understand what really happened there. So he's now provoked by his wrath and acting in Ukraine according to the way that we acted in Yugoslavia. That's what he's saying. So the Serbs certainly got a very bad deal out of this. And why did it happen? There were many casualties in the leading state, Serbia, of Yugoslavia, many casualties. We wrote this in my article I was talking about. Yugoslavia was conquered by American military power. Under the banner of NATO, the United States blasted the Serbs to smithereens so Kosovo and other states could break away. It was a terrible attack against the Serbs, who were American allies in World War I and World War II. How could we do that to our allies of World War I and World War II? And the Serbs were ferocious fighters. Notice this, the world is rightly outraged by Putin's attacks on hospitals. When NATO, with America's power, bombed Serbia, they damaged 19 hospitals. Their patients tell harrowing stories of being rushed into bomb shelters while giving birth, just like it happened in Ukraine. Do you remember that history? Do you know anything about that history? Do we even admit that history? But I'll tell you, it is well documented. It really is. And Putin is letting us know this just about every week of the last several weeks and even months. But we did all that on the behalf of Germany. Why would we do that? And now, do you know who controls Yugoslavia now? Germany. We didn't get anything out of that. Germany controls Yugoslavia and the entire Balkans, which was their plan from the beginning. They wanted control of the Balkans and the Adriatic Sea, which leads out into the Mediterranean, which they also dominate. And it's all in their plan, and it is a plan to get control of this world. They've had that plan for hundreds and even thousands of years. So what are we going to do about that? We were not willing to stand up to Germany, and they kept pressuring us. But here God says, I'm going to break the pride of your power. Leviticus 26 and verse 19, talking to nations of Israel. But here now the entire Balkan Peninsula is controlled by Germany. Let me give you another quote to illustrate this. This is what I wrote years ago. The Serbs see clearly that Germany was behind the breakup of Yugoslavia. Slovenia and Croatia wanted to break away in the 1990s. Initially, most of Europe, the United Nations, and the United States were against that because they knew it would cause terrible problems. But Germany recognized and strongly supported Slovenia and Croatia. And against the rest of the world, the will of Germany prevailed. Croatia's breakaway led to civil war. Then Germany managed to get America and NATO to do the dirty work. Well, what do you know about that? Now, here's another quote from Warren Christopher, the United States Secretary of State at the time. He said this, "The Germans bear a particular responsibility for the Yugoslav Civil War." But he was quickly silenced, and no leader of our government has made such a statement since. We just don't want to talk about that. Even to this day, we won't talk about it. But it was a terrible mistake that America made, and now you could say, well, how much of that suffering in Ukraine is because of it? Something we ought to think about if we want to be honest and if we want to impress people by our word and what we say we will do. Notice this quote. At the time, German leaders were crying out that the Serbs were committing genocide, trying to destroy whole races of people. Almost every one of those statements long ago proved to be lies. But what do you know? That's what Vladimir Putin said when he went into the Ukraine. Well, they're committing genocide. That's what we said when we bombed and sent our missiles into Yugoslavia, our allies in 2 world wars. What a terrible thing to do to your allies. What a weakness America has to let Germany dominate them like that when you consider Germany's past. And we have to always be reminded that they started World War I and started World War II, and they're headed toward World War III. So says Bible prophecy. If we don't wake up, notice what Romano Prodi said even at that time. President Prodi at that time said of the European Commission, quote, "But in the long run, Balkans belong strictly to the EU." Oh, well, how about that? even though we used our power to destroy them, they said it belongs to us, not you, not the UN, not anybody else. It belongs to Germany and the Holy Roman Empire. That's what he was saying. What gall when you consider their past. This destruction of Yugoslavia was something that concerned even the New York Times at that time. They wrote about this. And what does this mean to you? Notice this quote. It says, moreover, in its unusual assertiveness in moving ahead with a plan to extend diplomatic recognition to the breakaway Yugoslav republics of Croatia and Slovenia, Germany has stirred troubling historical associations. Well, what does that mean? The New York Times was concerned about that at the time. This really brings up some troubling historical associations. Like what? Well, let's read on. Nazi Germany dominated the two Yugoslav regions during World War II, absorbing Slovenia into the Third Reich and creating a puppet regime in Croatia. Well, how about that? I'd say those are troubling associations, wouldn't you? I'll tell you what, I just ask you this question. Doesn't that really indicate to you that Germany never did repent of their Nazi past? That's what the New York Times is really implying. That's something that we all ought to be thinking about. And then our government knew that they were plotting to rise up again and do the same thing again even before World War II was over, and our own government hid those secret documents for 50 years. And our booklet on Germany's conquest of the Balkans will explain all that to you and even show you those documents. You need to read them. And again, it all happened to our allies of World War I and World War II. Notice again what the New York Times says. Germany has long historical ties, both glorious and shameful, to Slovenia and Croatia, the New York Times wrote. In spite of that, the United States caved in. And notice what the British economist and former Eurocrat Bernard Connolly, he wrote this book on the rotten heart of Europe, and he said the European Union was only a cloak for German ambitions. The whole European Union's only a cloak for German ambitions. And look what's happening in Europe today. And that's exactly what is happening. Germany is running everything and still pushing people around and getting their way and building the last Holy Roman Empire there ever will be. God is going to see to that. It's about to end forever. But Germany knew they had to get rid of those fiercely fighting Serbs to control the Balkans. And so they pressured and pushed America to do the dirty work and to attack Yugoslavia and destroy that nation. And they had no reason to do that. None whatsoever, except they just caved in to Germany out of weakness and ignorance, I'm sure. But I'll tell you this, Vladimir Putin has not forgotten. Let's take a look at Revelation 17 and verse 10. And there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen. Here are the kings of the Holy Roman Empire. 5 of them are fallen. And then here's the 6th one. And one that's when Hitler came on the scene. And when the Yugoslavians fought with us against Hitler in World War II. And that's number 6. And then it says, and the other's not yet come. And when he comes, he must continue a short space. Yes, thank God for that. But the other is not yet come, and now it is come. And you're about to see your 10 kings appear on the world scene, and that will be the last Holy Roman Empire there ever will be. God is going to put a stop to all that and all that violence and murder and every kind of violence you can imagine. This one is right there when Herbert Armstrong came on the scene and explained all that, how we were allies with the Yugoslavians in World War I and World War II. And now if you look on the world scene, it is just bursting on the scene where everybody can see it, and Germany has enough power now that they're just stating it publicly, what their goals are. But they still are filled with a lot of deceit. But this world is going to regret all that they've allowed Germany to do. Notice verse 12. Somebody else has to take care of this besides men. Verse 12. And the 10 horns which you saw are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. These shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them. That's Jesus Christ. For he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and they that are with him are called and chosen and faithful. Jesus Christ came to this world as a lamb and sacrificed himself to all kinds of barbaric treatment to pay for our sins. And we go right on sinning as if it didn't even happen. But there are, you see, God talks about those coming back with him are the called and chosen and faithful. Those first fruits that are called out and help God do his work before his second coming. And they're going to sit on David's throne with Jesus Christ and rule with him forever and ever over the entire universe. What a future that is for people who do God's work. Think about all of these terrible things that happened. It's a part of our history we ought to be deeply ashamed about. Think about this. Germany took on the whole Western world and absolutely persuaded them and convinced them, hey, they didn't want to see the European community destroyed. So Germany said, well, we'll just get out if you don't go along with us. And all of them just went along and caved in, even though in the beginning they were all against it. And Germany turned them all around. And that's just the beginning of Germany's throwing their weight around. You're going to see it in spades very, very soon. That's what your Bible says. So, did you know that the historical plan was for the European community to control Germany so they wouldn't rise up and start another world war? And America was supposed to be the strongest one there to make sure that Germany was controlled by all of Europe. And they did just the opposite. In a great weakness that's hard to understand. Notice what it says here. Well, you can see that Britain and France and the Netherlands, they were all shocked because America was supposed to help keep Germany in place so they wouldn't get control of Europe. But America helped them to get there. And that was a real shock to all of Europe and all of our allies. So we need to understand that. Until next week, this is Gerald Flurry. Goodbye, friends.
All our literature is available free of charge at no cost or obligation to you. Request Germany's Conquest of the Balkans, Putin Remembers Yugoslavia, and a subscription to the Philadelphia Trumpet. Order now. The preceding program was a paid presentation of The Key of David, brought to you by the Philadelphia Church of God.